of the day, that baby's looking right at you.
Where I had slept with another man.
She wrote me and said that my son was dead.
Pouncing around and bouncing that hair and acting crazy.
Judge, please. Please, Judge.
You living that typical homegirl life.
How is it just my fault?
I never got to achieve mine.
Because every time I brought it up, it was always, oh, I know she's mine.
We were never together.
It was definitely going to be a heated courtroom with these two involved. From their faces, you could already tell they wanted to fight each other over everything. Miss Haysbert was suing Mr. Howard for a paternity test because he had wronged her in so many ways. First, she claimed he never provided for them and also never paid child support for the upbringing of the child. Secondly, she claimed he left her baby and decided to father another woman's child after lying to her that he had plans to get married to Miss Haysbert. I told you it was going to be intense.
Ms. Haysbert, you are suing the father of your 6-month-old son for a paternity test. You claim the defendant, Mr. Howard, has never financially supported baby Ricardo Jr.
Yes.
You also state that he once led you to believe that he wanted to marry you and even asked you to have his baby.
Yes.
But once you were actually pregnant, you say he abandoned you and has since fathered another baby.
Their relationship started at work. They were particularly high school sweethearts. From co-workers, they became friends, and from there, things got pretty intimate between both of them. The crazy thing was, she knew he had a girlfriend, but she just didn't care about any of that. Mr. Howard was completely speechless when she narrated her story, but he was going to keep quiet for much longer. He wasn't going to let her have all the fun as she told her own side of the story.
Co-workers, and then after that, we became friends. Like, we used to chill with each other outside of work. It was to the point, like, when something was wrong, he came to me. After that, you know, we started having sex and we got drunk. So yeah, we got drunk and had sex, and that's how I conceived my son.
Got drunk and had sex?
After that, like, I knew he had a girlfriend, and you know, I didn't mind because we were just friends. Then it came to the point where he told me, because when she was pregnant, when, you know, we first started hanging out.
Miss Haysbert had quite a lot to say about the whole situation. It was almost as if this wasn't her first rodeo. It was either that, or she had been rehearsing for this moment all her life. She told her story without making any errors, and Mr. Howard was surprised at how she just kept talking. She claimed that Mr. Howard wanted her for just the baby since his girlfriend at the time had a miscarriage. He seemed pretty excited at first, but after a while, he became a totally different person towards her.
Once I got pregnant, and I told him I was pregnant, he acted like he won the lottery. He was so excited. Oh, Junior, oh, I can't wait for you to have my son. He was so excited.
Where the money at? Where's the money at if I won the lottery?
As soon as my 5th or 6th month of pregnancy, he wanted to change up the tables. He wasn't there. He didn't even come to the doctor's appointment.
At about 6 months.
She's alive.
Yes, and that's when the girlfriend started calling my phone, telling me, oh, they're still together.
It was time for him to speak, and the first thing that jumped out of his mouth was the fact that Miss Haysbert was a clown. He said she knew how to lie pretty well, and everything she said had been built all in her head. With the way these two get throwing jabs at each other, it was pretty difficult to determine who was saying the truth or how they even ended up having sex in the first place. He told the court that he did want to take care of the baby when he found out. So where did the denial come from if he wanted to take care of the baby?
I was like, oh, you pregnant? Okay. And she was like, what you gonna do? I said, I'm a man up. I'm a man about mine. I'm gonna take care of it. I don't know why she lied in court, but she knows that I'm a good guy. I didn't try to do all types of things. I didn't try to take care of my son, ask for a DNA test.
No, he didn't.
She didn't want to give me a DNA test.
Okay, so now I'm trying to understand your point. She told you she was pregnant.
You could see the feeling of betrayal in her eyes. She couldn't understand why Mr. Howard was denying her and the baby. In the initial stage, he loved being around her and the baby. She recalled times when he would show up at her place and come to play with her and the unborn child. He even gave her belly rubs to pamper her and make her feel like the woman he wanted to marry, at least so she claimed. The question still remains, where did it all go wrong?
She said like
he came over my house. He used to rub my belly and tell my son, and while he was in my stomach, oh, I will never leave you. I will always take care of you. I'm gonna always be here for you. But he's lying because he hasn't been there at all.
You crazy. I've been buying this stuff and you've been pushing nothing but
First
stuff
of all,
away.
you gave my son hand-me-downs. Do you think he about to wear
What's a
that?
hand-me-down?
I bought my son stuff. I've been buying him stuff.
Why would I give
You
my
know
son
what?
hand-me-downs? You crazy.
You bought him hand-me-downs.
Oh, she crazy,
The
Judge.
clothes
I would never buy my son no hand-me-down.
To tell you how serious she was, she had proof. If this was a situation where Mr. Howard would end up in jail if found guilty, with the evidence she had, he was going to be doing some serious jail time. She had proof showing the countless number of times he told her he loved her and how she and the baby meant everything to him. Even with the evidence right in front of his eyes, he still denied her and said she was making the stories up.
Love you, babe. Kiss my son for me.
Kiss my son for me.
You're acknowledging him. How you going to deny him then acknowledge him?
What?
Thank you very much.
Okay, since we got so much about my son, since you trying to make it seem like I'm just a bad
Like,
guy
why do I
and
have
all
to
this
catch
stuff,
the bus
won't you
if
see?
you have a car?
Won't you see?
When he was in the hospital.
Won't you see the text message that she wrote me and said that my son was dead?
But Mr. Howard had his own proof to present to the court. His proof was turned tables in that courtroom. She claimed that Miss Heisbert also sent him a text informing him that his son was dead. Her name wasn't present in the chats, but he knew in his mind that she was the one playing games with his mind. Weck that explains why he has so much doubt about being the father of the child. If you got a text informing you your child was dead, wouldn't you get suspicious? I most definitely will.
About a baby passing away.
Your Honor, that don't have anything to do with that.
No.
No, I don't know anything about that.
What do you know about
I don't know anything about that. Kiana called me the next day saying, oh, Ricardo wants to know if his son is dead. And I let her know if something was to happen to my son, I would not let him know for the simple fact he's not there for him. He has no right to know what goes on in my son's life.
But you just said that I want you. You said that I want you.
These two were never going to find a common ground. All they wanted to do was yell at each other playing the blame game while a child was in the middle of their drama. The judge got tired of their drama and decided to bring out the results of the DNA test. Let's see who has been telling the truth and who has been fooling the court.
Mr. Howard, you are his father.
To death do us pop, boo.
All right, I'ma
so
be a
it
man.
is what it is.
I'ma be a
Don't
man.
call my phone. Don't
I'ma
have
be
that
a man.
little wench over
I'ma
there
be a
call my
man.
phone
I'ma
or
be
text
a
my
man.
phone. You will never see him.
I'ma be a
Never.
man.
I don't know why. I don't know who hurt you in your past. I don't know what bad relationships you've been in or where you were in your life to where you fell for that okie doke.
Mr. Lee's mom had all her hopes tied to the results of this paternity case. It was either her wishes came true in the courtroom or she went there to have the worst day of her life. Apparently, there was a baby on the line, and Mr. Lee's mom was definitely not ready to believe the baby belonged to her son. Miss Longshore, on the other hand, was full throttle on the fact that Mr. Lee was the father of her kid.
Ms. Johnson, you have brought your teenage son to court to get the results of a paternity test to prove that he is not the father of the defendant's son, Caden. You say you've always had big plans for your son's future and you're concerned that if this child is his, those dreams may now never come true.
Miss Johnson, who happened to be Mr. Lee's mother, started by talking about how she uncovered the deeds that were happening behind her back. Not just behind her back, but under her roof. She got a text from Miss Longshore explaining that she had a sexual relationship with her son, and that he could most likely be the father of her child. Well, so she thought at least.
She had informed me that they had sexual relations at my home when I was at work.
And then she also obviously indicated that she thought your son was the father.
Initially, she thought somebody else was.
Okay.
Well, that's what you told me, and I have the
It
Facebook
was-
message right here.
It was between. I
Jerome,
didn't
would
think.
you please hand me that piece of evidence? Thank you.
See when it started off?
Miss Johnson sure had a firm grip on her son. It was finally time to tell his side of the story and how things really played out. His story was the complete opposite of what Miss Longshore claimed to have happened. It was now a question of who was really telling the truth. Now that's not even the mind-blowing revelation because it gets even spicier. Mr. Lee says she told him she was pregnant but wasn't sure if he was the father. These stories just don't check out.
Speak up, son.
Well, I talked to her on Facebook, like we had a conversation on Facebook, and at first she was telling me like, oh, I'm pregnant, but I don't think you're the father. I had sex with other guys, it shouldn't even be you. And then afterwards, after the baby was born, she was like, oh, don't worry, it don't look like you, you're not the father. So I wasn't even worried.
I never said that. I told you plenty of times Caden looks just like you. Why are you lying in court?
No, you
Please
never
stop.
said that.
Apparently, these two had been fooling around since high school. Miss Longshore claimed she was just with him for the sexual aspect of the relationship. Mr. Lee, on the other hand, believed Miss Longshore's intentions were never for them to get into a serious relationship. Well, at least they both agree on one thing. It was never meant to be a serious relationship.
We went to the same high school.
Okay.
We were never together. It was a friendship type
was
thing,
a
and we
one-night
ended up having sex
fling
one
type
day, and I got pregnant.
With
And we
a
were
house
never
full of people,
together.
Judge.
We weren't.
And it wasn't like we ended up having sex. She was coming after this. This was not
You got
at all.
Oh, I was coming after that.
That-
wow.
She was
That
checking
is
on
what
me.
he-
It wasn't
Wow, I was
Okay.
coming after that. That's crazy.
Well, if
See.
this baby ends up being yours, it's gonna be checking on you too.
Miss Johnson was upset. She was really upset. She felt the baby coming into her son's life would ruin his plans for a bright future. She didn't want him to go through so much headaches before he made something of himself. Well, newsflash, Miss Johnson. Your son was the one who got into a sexual relationship. It sure seems like he wasn't thinking about his future.
Whatever I gotta do, I'll do it. Because I want him to finish college. I want him to go. I want him to achieve his dreams. I never got to achieve mine, okay? And I want that for him. So it's not that I don't understand the struggle, but I know you gotta work at it. Ain't nobody just gonna give you nothing. And there's no reason for me to just accept a child when He was 5 months old when I got the Facebook.
Now, in Mr. Lee's defense, he said he knew nothing about the baby. One moment she was fine and okay, and the next moment she texted him out of the blue and said she was pregnant. Well, at least that's how he put it. Miss Longshore had something totally different to say. She tried reaching out to Mr. Lee several times to talk about the baby, but he turned into a ghost. She couldn't get a hold of him anywhere.
We never even saw her pregnant. We never saw pictures of her pregnant. It was like just a baby out of nowhere.
What? Pregnant. You were tagged in my sonogram before you deleted me. What are you talking about?
You never added me.
Beyonce was.
You never added me.
Yes, I did.
I never saw a sonogram. I've never seen you on Facebook. I don't know what you're talking about.
We gotta get some order in the court.
Please,
we're tagging people in a sonogram now.
Judge,
I've
please,
never
can
seen
I
a
say
sonogram.
something?
Miss Johnson proceeds to detail how much she suffered while she was growing up. Things weren't easy, all right. She went through so much to get to where she is today, and that's all she was trying to do for her baby boy. With the way she spoke, you could tell she was definitely not going to allow anything to ruin her son's life, even if it was a baby, or should I say, most importantly, if the baby was not his.
Growing up.
My mother had some substance abuse issues, but she's made great strides to improve and change her life. So I know it can be done.
With her mother as an addict, like she raised her siblings, she raised all her brothers, and I was raised up with them.
So you know your mother's a very strong woman.
Yes, I do, Your Honor. I know she'll do whatever it takes just to get us fed.
And you also know how much she wanted.
All this talk about Miss Johnson wanting the best for her son was getting on Miss Longshore's nerve. She got angry in almost no time, and she decided to air out how she was feeling. She started by accusing both Mr. Lee and his mom of making her look like a bad person. I mean, they both had a sexual relationship, so why are they making it look like she was the only one who was interested in the relationship?
You're making it seem like this is just me or something.
There wasn't
like,
no game on.
How is it just my fault? How is it just my fault? You had sex with me too. I didn't have sex with myself. Like, come on now, get it together. Why didn't you think smart enough
when
to
you're
put a
gonna
condom
come
on?
over every day
I don't
and
walk
just
around
throw
with
it at
condoms.
me, I can't say no forever. If you're gonna come over every day and just throw it at me,
I didn't
like,
come
oh,
to your
you want
house
some?
every day, so stop lying. Stop trying to make me seem like I'm a hoe, because you got it all twisted.
Now Mr. Lee has a new perspective on his story. Talk about someone playing the victim. He claimed Miss Longshore seduced him into having a sexual relationship. He even claimed he was still a virgin when she started to make sexual moves towards him.
Like, I never met any of her family. I never went to her house. I didn't even know where she stayed
You haven't met any of my
until she came
family?
over.
You haven't met none of my family. You didn't meet my brother who went to the same
Miss
school as us.
Longshore, let me ask you this,
Come
Miss
on now, get
Longshore.
it together.
So you two weren't even dating. You were saying you were just friends.
Yes.
And that's what I thought.
Did you want to be more than a friend?
I did like him, and he needs to stop acting like he didn't like me back, because you was telling everybody at school that you liked me. So stop acting like you didn't. Stop acting like it's just me, dude.
The atmosphere was getting too heated for the tantrums that were coming from both sides. The only thing that could smooth the air was the DNA results. Would Miss Johnson's dreams for her son be shattered?
Mr. Lee, it is without question, you are Caden's.
I told you! Told you! I ain't got nothing left to say. Told you! Nothing left to say. Nothing left to say. Kiss my...
Can I see my grandchild, please?
Jerome.
Do you know that feeling when your best friend goes running to your boyfriend to tell them all about your different escapades with other men? Well, Miss Stremke knows that feeling very well. Her friend told her partner, Mr. Jaramillo, about her different trysts with other men. And now Mr. Jaramillo doubts that both of his children by Ms. Stremke are his. And oh, Mr. Jaramillo had a threesome with Ms. Stremke and his best friend, and it was unprotected, and there was a baby born out of that incident. Of course, Mr. Jaramillo says that child isn't his as well.
Parents present at different times, we were denied. I feel like they can't trust their dad because he denies that he's their dad half the time. And my 4-year-old Naviana knows. She can hear the, well, I'm not her dad anyway. And it just gives her doubt. And when she looks at her dad, there's not gonna be respect there. I can't expect her to do what he says if he's gonna say, I'm not your dad. She's 4 years old and she's smarter than most 4-year-olds. She knows.
That's right, Ms. Stremke. Children are extremely perceptive, and you don't want your child growing up in that sort of situation. Mr. Jaramillo says this is regrettable, but he really can't do anything about it since the paternity issues get brought up in fights. You know what you can do about that issue, Mr. Jaramillo? Stop fighting with your partner in front of your kids. It solves all of your problems quickly.
I had just gotten out of a relationship with my son's father and had moved back to Iowa. Well, I ended up where I had slept with another man. And this is before me and Mr. Jaramillo had gotten together. But it was very, very shortly after that that we got together. And it was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks that I found out I was pregnant after we had first slept together, and he got a phone call from a girl that I had went to school with.
Now, Mr. Jaramillo hadn't met this friend before, but he believed every word of what she said. Ms. Stremke, of course, knew the friend in question and argued that it was all a lie.
Which I really don't understand, because how can you base your daughter's paternity off of some girl you had never even met?
Well, it was one of your friends, you know. You'd spent time with her.
What did she say to you exactly, Mr. Jaramillo?
She said that the baby that Miss Stremke has been impregnated with wasn't mine, that she had been sleeping with numerous males.
Another thing is that Miss Stremke and Mr. Jaramillo had only been together for about a month before Miss Stremke told him that she was pregnant. To make things worse, Naviana was born about 3 weeks early, which makes it seem like the child truly doesn't belong to Mr. Jaramillo. Instead, it's for the man Ms. Stremke slept with before meeting him.
So in addition to the phone call, then she was born 3 weeks earlier than expected. So if you counted back 3 weeks, that's about the time when
That was about the time that the other males were present.
I was upfront with you and told you that there was one other person before we had gotten together.
You said one other person, and then came another fellow that your best friend told me about.
I had never slept with anybody but one person besides you, and that was before we had gotten together.
What about the second daughter? What doubts does Mr. Jaramillo have about her? And exactly how did he get those doubts? The answer will probably surprise you.
And then it was maybe a couple weeks later it got brought up, it'd only be fair if we had a male, and you. So I said, okay, all right, that's fine, it's something new and everything. And I had changed my mind on it and decided, because I have so many like body issues, not like in the way I look after I've had a child and everything, that I decided no. Well, he persisted and kept bringing it up, and he ended up bringing his friend over.
Mr. Jaramillo's friend didn't come over for pancakes. He came over for a different sort of cake. Mr. Jaramillo invited his friend to have intercourse with his wife, and none of the 3 people involved used any sort of protection. Imagine if they did. It would have protected both of them from showing up in paternity court today.
It was a mutual suggestion between Amber and I. We had gone through it back and forth between Miss Stremke and I. It was a toss-up back and forth. One minute she'd want to do it, the next minute she didn't. And from being with Amber, I know if she's gonna do something, it has to be on the spot. So to get it done and over with, yeah, I did bring this friend of mine.
Look, if you want to spice up your marriage, here's some good advice. Don't invite other people into it. If you want to get more excitement in your marriage, go see a movie, get on a jet, and go for a vacation. Don't invite your buddy into your bedroom and then not tell him to use a condom. Anyway, let's find out who the real father of the child is.
Mr. Jaramillo, you are the father. Mr. Jaramillo, you are the father. You look so relieved.
I am.
The fact that having sex without protection and inviting other people into the relationship, you know, it's not monopoly. It's not better with more people.